All right. Hello, people of YouTube land and those that follow the Cringe Crew Gaming community Discord and those that follow Ted and I on Twitch. I am Traductus.
And I'm Ted.
And this is the James Bond Review Podcast by Cringe Crew Gaming. And today we are covering Quantum of Solace, finally. Thank fucking God. Because...
Yeah, we got to watch a real movie this week instead of two pieces of fucking garbage. Jesus.
Yes. This is the second Daniel Craig film. Released in 2008 and directed by Mark Forrester, who directed Monsters Ball, Finding Neverland, Stranger Than Fiction, The Kite Runner, World War Z, and Christopher Robin.
Pretty good resume.
Yeah. He was actually shocked that he got the role, and he said the only reason why he said yes is because he saw Casino Royale and saw that they wanted to kind of do like interesting shit with Bond as opposed to like sticking 100% to the formula. Although, well, we'll get into this. Probably, I wouldn't say necessarily regrets, but was probably regretting taking the job during production of this. But anyway, we'll go to budget and box office. This took $200 to $230 million to make. That's weird that it's like a hyphen, you know, it's like somewhere around, it gives me range, which is the first time that this has ever happened. But the box office was $589.6 million and is the seventh highest grossing film of 2008. Now, production of this movie was a fucking mess. Mainly due to the fact that they had to haphazard put a script in because they basically didn't have a finished script because of the writer's strike that happened, and they couldn't really use the script that they kind of had bits and pieces so because of that. So literally this was put together by Mark Forrester and the actors, including Daniel Craig. And Daniel Craig has basically stated, I'm not a writer. And told the press essentially like how this process was such a pain in the ass that he kind of is like, I kind of regret taking the role, which they assumed that Daniel Craig hates being James Bond. And thought that this would be his last movie. And then Daniel Craig would take that press and use that for marketing for like the next two Bond films until we got to No Time to Die, which is for sure Daniel Craig's last Bond film. But I just find that funny how they just take like a dude who's like frustrated and like burnt out over like such a really, really rigorous production and took it as like he's just like done with the series completely.
Yeah, I don't blame him though, because like writing your own script is difficult if it's not something that you're prepared for, right? Like haven't done the whole producer thing, haven't like written lines before. Like writing your own lines has to be pretty goddamn tough.
Right. Also, it's really funny. Before the movie was like announced, like it didn't have a title, and then they finally put under Quantum of Solace, which is so far the last Bond film to use a Ian Fleming title. So that comes from the short story Quantum of Solace, although the plot line doesn't have anything to do with that, although there is a plot line that comes from 007 in New York that they throw in there and tie it in with Casino Royale, which this movie does tie in a lot with Casino Royale, and that wasn't supposed to happen, but due to the writer's strike, that's why it happened. But one thing I really thought was like really, really cool is how they said like the thematic elements that they kind of got from like the short story was when the quantum of Solace drops to zero, humanity and considerations for one human for another is gone. And Daniel Craig actually goes, uh, um, goes, I was unsure at first. Bond is looking for his quantum of Solace, and that's what he wants. He wants closure. Ian Fleming says if you don't have a quantum of solace in your relationship, then the relationship is over. LAD basically talks about like, well, his, in his relationship, Vesper's killed, so therefore he's, out for revenge to, get peace within himself. And I'm pretty sure we're kind of get to that with likes and dislikes on how brutal Daniel Craig's Bond is in this movie.
Yeah.
But next is obviously casting. Daniel Craig comes back. Judi Dench, of course, comes back. Jesper Christensen's back as Mr. White. Jeffrey Wright's also back as Felix Leiter, being the first person since David Hedison to play Felix Leiter twice, but the first person to play him twice consecutively, and so far the only person to do that. And as a matter of fact, he comes back in No Time to Die, so he is the longest tenured Felix Leiter. And yeah, 3 films.
Yeah, it feels like a role they've ripped apart once or twice, but
let's see. Also, Rory Kinnear as Bill Tanner comes back. What else? All right, so now we can go with like new people. All right, we have for the main Bond lady is Olga Kurylenko, who plays Camille Montes. And this is kind of, I don't know how I feel about this casting because obviously the person is supposed to be of is a Bolivian agent, and obviously supposed to be like a Hispanic character, and is played by a Ukrainian French lady. So I don't know if like it's definitely not. It's kind of like a Kamal Khan type of situation, not really like in brown face, but like it just makes me think. I thought we were over this.
It wasn't egregiously bad, but it was noticeable, I guess. Like it wasn't as bad as they've been previously, but still, it would be nice to cast people in roles that fit the role they're trying to be.
Right. We also have I think it's Matthew, but it's Mathieu.
Yeah.
Wow, another French actor. Matthew Amarick, and he plays the villain of Dominic Green, and he's known for being in Steven Spielberg's Munich and also Wes Anderson's The Grand Budapest Hotel. While he was cast, he actually wanted to like do like his own makeup and just have like a kind of like a scar or some sort of feature because he didn't want his character to be like boring. But the director said no, we want you looking normal because like true villains of this world just look like average looking people. They don't look like a stereotypical Bond villain. Which may or may not be kind of like worked in this movie. I like it. We're gonna probably get into that a little bit more. He said he basically modeled his performance off of British Prime Minister Tony Blair and also a French politician, Nicolas Paul Stéphane Sarkozy de Nagui Bosca, who he actually called the worst villain we the French have ever had. So, 2 politicians, not Elon Musk, who he kind of honestly reminds me of, but We also have I forgot Giancarlo Giannini comes back as Renee Mathis. We also have Gemma it's either Gemma or Gemma Arteeton as MI6 agent Strawberry Fields. She has been kind of hit or miss on this role. She basically, doesn't hate the fact that she took the role, but is very critical that her character has no backstory
or a first name.
Right. And that was actually on purpose to actually not say her first name because they said it was like she is a character whose attributes are neither undermined or compromised by her name, even though her name may have sexual overtones reminiscent of other Bond girls. She also said that she kind of took influence from Diana Rigg's performance from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and also was a fan of Otter Blackman and who played Pussy Galore in Goldfinger. And we'll get to the parallels between her and a certain character in Goldfinger. We get to kind of like likes and dislikes. But she kind of saw it as like a tribute to all, Bond women in the past. We also have okay, who's the frickin' Joaquin Cosio as General Medrano. He's best known for being General Matias Suarez in the Suicide Squad, and also Don Nito in Narcos Mexico. Also, I probably should say where Gemma Arterton is known for. She's known for appearances in as Gretel in Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. She's also in The Escape, the Clash of the Titans remake, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, been in stuff like that. Okay, Kurylenko. She was in The Death of Stalin, Seven Psychopaths, and also plays Taskmaster in Black Widow, the Marvel film. All right. Glad that I am prepared and try not forgetting shit. And then we have someone that Ted can if I can find the fucking character's name on here. God.
Not scuffed.
Yeah, not scuffed. Is he? Why don't you put him right next to fucking Felix Leiter, you fucking assholes? All right. There's like a shady fucking character in this movie that's the head of the CIA.
He basically plays like a handler for the CIA. Like it's weird that he's just supposed to control Felix Leiter and just kind of hangs around to do the communication between.
There we go. Greg Beebe, CIA section chief for South America, and a contact of Felix Leiter, played by
the guy who plays Hopper from Stranger Things, man.
David Harbour.
It was goddamn incredible, man. He looks so fucking out of place without looking like a bloody destroyed mess. That's pretty cool.
So that's it for that we got for cast. So I guess we'll finally get into likes and dislikes. That's crazy how we're getting to a point where it's like we actually have like a long list of people that have actually like done things in like this pop culture.
Yeah. And
so it's like
it's also strange too because like it's not all of them always, right? Like they may be more relevant of times, but there's some people you recognize and some people you don't, and it's still just like, hey, that came out in 2008. There's still kids that don't recognize that, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer.
Right. So likes and dislikes. I would say one of my biggest likes is the fact that I like Mr. White in this, especially like he's getting like, interrogated. He's just like, it's like You have no fucking idea. You're not gonna get shit out of me. And they're just like, oh yeah, like, you know, James Bond. And they're all like, for sure, like, oh no, we're gonna, like, you know, like, extract all the information that we can out of you. And then he's like, oh, but we have people everywhere. They're like, yeah, you sure you do. And then a person that was supposed to be loyal, you know, like a loyal bodyguard to M, is a member of this organization, Quantum, which totally is not a substitute for Spectre because they don't have the rights to Spectre.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, this is actually due to them getting the rights to Spectre. This ends up being kind of like a
like a precursor to Spectre.
Well, a branch of Spectre.
Okay.
Which I think is stupid, but we'll get into that when we get into Spectre. But that being said, then like M later on just goes, you know, when people say that they have people everywhere, they don't actually mean everywhere.
Yeah.
And also, like, there's the scene where they're having like the Spectre meeting, well, Quantum meeting, and like Bond, you know, intercepts it and just like, hey, I found you guys out. And everybody's just kind of like, you know, like leaving their, like getting their picture taken. And then Mr. White, the smart motherfucker that he is, just takes out his earpiece and just sits, it just says, hey, not everybody likes this opera that's happening right now. Like, he knows for a fact that if he stays put, he's not getting his damn picture taken.
It was pretty
so
neat. There were a lot of interesting developments to characters. I thought Mr. White was cool. I definitely enjoyed Mathis plays like a really interesting, strange little halfway helpful. I mean, I guess it was mostly helpful, but really fit a weird hole.
I still like the fact that Mathis is still pissed off, and rightfully so. And then we're gonna go with Mathis on dislikes because they did our poor buddy Mathis dirty.
They definitely did. But I appreciated the way that they developed M's character, like building the trust and the relationship between Bond and M. I thought it was a pretty interesting development. Even Felix Leiter, I thought they did a better job of giving him a more impactful role. The only place that I'll say that the like character development and roles didn't really hit correctly for me was Fields, because I felt like they tried to make it so that you didn't care about the character by not giving her a first name, but then it was also like it was too big a part to not know the character's. Like, it was supposed to be, hey, find this character important, but not so important you care. It just it was a really weird hole.
And on top, and it's we'll get into dislikes on with her. It's not the performance. She does very, very well. It's just absolutely how the character's written. I also like Camille. Like how her character's written is really, it's done very, very well. I also like the fact that Bond doesn't sleep with her.
Only took us 25 fucking
and here's the thing. I don't mind if it makes sense. Like, yes, I know it's a Bond film, hence why he sleeps with, you know, Strawberry Fields, but the fact of the matter is, like, For Your Eyes Only, there was no real need for, you know, Bond and the, you know, Bond woman, to, like, hook up. There was no need for it. Like, they could have told that story without that. And it just seems kind of very forced, and it also doesn't help that Roger Moore's, like, in his 50s, and, the Bond woman's in her freaking early 20s, so the age gap is, like, really weird and creepy. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
You know? So, and no, I'm not saying the D word this time. All right? I don't have to. All right? I've done it enough. Ted has suffered enough. Besides, I have tier 3 subscription. I can spam his chat with the emote. Which is why you should tier 3 sub. You can say the D word. You can say it with the emote. what was I gonna? Where was I? Oh, right. And so I really, appreciate that they, even though like they share like a kiss as kind of like a send off to each other, but I like the fact that that's all that's needed, and they understand that's all that's needed.
Right. And the cool thing too was that the way that the characters were written is that they both grew from each other, that they wouldn't have done independently. Like the specific roles that these characters hit, not only to fill the movie, but to continue developing as part of this like separate canon plot line, I guess, is the
Yeah,
best way to describe the Daniel Craig movies, I thought was very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and I also like that. Even though some people do criticize this film, saying that the detriment of it is that it relies so much on Casino Royale, I do like how it builds upon Casino Royale, how, like, Bond's kind of growing. Like, granted, he's, like, extremely pissed off and brutal in this film. Like, crazy, like, psychotic.
Right.
Like, he
I
just fucking kills people and asks questions later.
Yeah, I not to get too far into other dislikes, right? But the difficult part of this film for me was that it was the first one that you couldn't just watch independently, right? Like you couldn't have
Right.
picked up the Bond franchise from here.
No,
But
you couldn't.
as a positive, it's like, hey, we cared about what we did before enough that we can reference it again, and it's not just 25 films of completely
Yes.
independent stuff. It was
Yes.
I did appreciate it.
Yes. And I honestly like the villain. I like Dominic Green. Like, and I also like the villain plot of him and the general. Basically, Dominic Green is starting a coup to put this general in there for exchange of this worthless land that the CIA is like, oh yeah, there has to be oil in there. He's an oil baron, so of course there's oil there, even though everybody's like, there's no oil there. He must know something. And then Bond also ends up kind of becoming a little bit rogue because the UK is like, oh, there's oil there. Hey, what's another coup in South America? It happens
Right.
all the time. Which I love also that scene between Bond and Felix Leiter with them discuss. It's like, yeah, you really carved up South America. And then Felix Leiter goes, oh, it goes, oh, that must be we doing a great job coming from you guys.
Yeah.
Because how Europe carved up Africa. So, like, I thought that was a really cool back and forth. But back to the villain plot, it's revealed that it has like 60% of the water in the country. And what's crazy is that in the 90s, throughout like 2000 and something, this happened in real life in the same country, Bolivia. Like, World Bank privatized the water, and there was like a huge conflict, like, that was called like the water wars and shit, that happened over them basically controlling the water supply and price gouging the water under the guise that they were like, making the water purer and better, which wasn't really the case. It was just, a money grab. And to me, I think that's, as shitty as it is, it's a brilliant fucking plan. Like, it's like Elliot Carver, smart.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it definitely creates to the villain partially because you can like imagine it as realism, seeing as something similar happened.
Yeah,
But also that like it's developed enough to be something that's realistic and feasible, not just to what's the spoof of this fucking movie, the Goldmember. Just
yeah.
I'm going to blow up the world, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
just some simple plot of I'm going to make everything explode. Like it's genuinely a real way to exploit people, which I thought was interesting.
And I also like how slimy Dominic Green is. Like, he's not over the top whatsoever. He is a very subtle, but at the same time, like,
He makes shit
it's kind of like,
done.
yeah, he makes shit get done, and he's like Kamal Khan. Like, he doesn't like try to kill Bond in some elaborate way.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, we're gonna try to do this like right away. He wants to actually get it done. And then he kind of like a Blofeld on Her Majesty's Secret Service, when it finally comes down where he actually has to do something, he actually fights back with a freaking axe. And that fight's pretty cool. But there are issues which will go to dislikes, but I do love the villain death. And that is the fact that Bond just leaves him in the middle of the desert with a fucking can of oil to drink. And you find out later his organization catches up to him, they shoot him. But it's revealed that he drank the oil. And I'm like, yes!
It's something. It's something.
But it's so interesting to think that, especially how brutal Craig is throughout this entire thing. At this point, he got his information from like Dominic Green. Goes, all right, I said I'll let you go, so drink this. See you later. It's like either your organization's gonna kill you or the desert is. Good luck. Yeah. Which is honestly kind of something that a Bond villain would do to Bond.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cool how they flipped that.
Certainly interesting. Certainly interesting. What else you got for your likes list?
That's about what I kind of have. Is basically how the character development is, how realistic the villain plot is, and the realism of like the villain. I also think the general guy is like really like pretty good for like his roles. I do like the fact that they tied in like 007 in New York, where Bond is trying to basically stake out, and this is like actually at the end where he stakes out like this lady that's dating a double agent, and then he goes to like apprehend the double agent. I love how they tie that in with Casino Royale, as in, like, Vesper was being played the entire time, and, like, her boyfriend was a member of Quantum that, faked his own kidnapping so that way she would betray MI6. And that there's that whole arc of, like, Bond's finally found his Quantum of Solace. Since I had to say the title because this movie doesn't say the title. Like Tomorrow Never Dies does not say the title. But I don't know, there's like a lot of things that despite it being like it's well thought out, just on a lot of things, certain things are well thought out, and it's crazy to think that this was like a scramble to get a movie done, that it was, it turned out as well as it did.
Yeah, I'd agree.
You got anything?
Nothing else for likes, but I'm happy to jump into dislikes if you want to.
Yeah. The fucking editing on action scenes.
Yeah.
God.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention cinematography. Sound was great. Camera angles were really good. They used a lot of like really modern jump cuts. Isn't quite right, but a lot of like. You ever watch like my biggest concern? Cuts. Right. My biggest concern with modern action films, right, is that you can't actually see the action. You just kind of know what's happening because the camera jumps and it's super close up, and then it jumps to something else super fast, and at the end of it, the good guy is just standing there breathing really hard, like he kind of almost got beat up, but at the end he beat the bad guy. And this used a lot of that. It wasn't as egregious as like a Marvel movie is.
Right. Although the beginning car chase is.
Like there are points and times where it becomes difficult to follow, but it's not as bad as it could be. But the way in which they filmed those kinds of scenes was definitely very. I genuinely wrote a note that says very Mission Impossible, because it gave me that kind of that kind of vibe where it's
and
just
they
like,
took a lot of inspiration from like the Jason Bourne films, because those were like the competitors. So, and for Bond adapting from to the times. They take inspiration from other things, hence why we have fucking Moonraker. So, yeah. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing.
Yeah. I would say that for the most part, this movie didn't do a terrible job at making you feel like it was thrown together, haphazardly. Like it clearly was. But there's a lot of things that just kind of felt lazy or convenient or whatever. And I'm not sure if that's a part of throwing it together haphazardly or if that was just what they were going to do anyway. The most notable one for me was that when they're flying over the desert in the end in the plane, and it's just like, hey, we're trying to gain altitude so we can use a parachute. Good thing we mentioned right before this that there's sinkholes all over the desert that had no business being there, and then they managed to parachute into a sinkhole.
Or or the whole like, yeah, there's hydrogen fuel cells in this hotel. Sounds unstable. Just an excuse to have the hotel just blow up a whole bunch of all
Right.
over the place. Which I'll say it does lead to a scene that I actually like, and that is when the Bond woman kind of flashbacks to her childhood, being like, surrounded by flames, and she goes, "I don't want to go out like this."
At least that one provided value, but you could have found better ways to have a hotel on fire without like, oh man, unstable hydrogen. Like it just there was a lot of like, it feels like they're like, hey, we need this thing to happen, and we don't know why we need it to happen, so fuck it, throw something at it.
I'll tell you this much: if Guy Hamilton was alive there, I would have fucking would have suspected. They would have went, "Hey, Mark Forster, take a step back. We're having Guy Hamilton film this."
Right.
That sounds like a very Guy Hamilton thing. We're just gonna have a hotel explode. Why? Because why not?
Right. I thought that Miss Fields was also a pretty convenient character. Like it just kind of seemed too easy for Bond to just do whatever he wanted. Like, oh, the next flight to London isn't in the morning, and a government doesn't have the ability to charter a private plane back to London to, withstand this guy. Like, no, the whole thing. Like, there was just a lot of points in it that were really, really convenient.
I hate the fact that she just shows up to fuck Bond and then die. Like, that's her character.
And they still relied on you to like care about her enough to be upset when she died that it was more motivation for Bond. Let's like give her a fucking
motivation. It's more motivation for Bond, and also motivation with like and the fact of it is, it doesn't matter that I don't mind that she dies. I mean, it's a gold, even though it's a cheap Goldfinger, callback, because she's covered in oil as opposed to gold. But like, it does show that, because Judi Dench goes up to Bond, it's like, hey, your fucking actions have consequences. Like, this lady's supposed to have brought you back to Britain, and now she's dead because of you.
Right.
Disobeying orders. And I like that. However, there is no backstory with her whatsoever. They don't give you enough to really care enough. And then they act like you should.
It's like almost comparable to like the earliest iterations of Felix Leiter, where it's just like, hey, this character is there to help out, and the only shortcomings Bond has, like, just barely fill this gap, And this was kind of the same. It's just like, hey, we need somebody for you to like almost care about that they're dead, and then we're not going to make you actually care about this character. Like, it just like, there was so much about this that was very, very convenient, which I can't tell if it's lazy writing or if it was a product of they didn't have actual writers on staff. But it sat in some weird spots.
And then Mathis's death, like, Bond uses him as a human shield.
Like,
granted, there isn't really nothing. Granted, there's like nothing for like Bond to do. Like, Bond has him up, and then like the guy's gonna shoot him anyway. But like, he uses his friend as a human shield. They have a heart to heart. Then he throws him in the fucking trash.
Mathis's death, as it happened, was like, all right, well, what were you really gonna do? It sucks that they did that to Mathis, that you used him as a literal bullet sponge, but. Also, I get that there weren't a whole lot of other options at that point in time.
Right.
They tried to make it where it was like, Bond cares, like, so much emphasis into this guy mattered to me, we wouldn't be here without him. I put him in a dumpster, it's what he would have wanted. What the fuck is that?
Right! Like, why?
Genuinely, what is that? It's like,
especially after he tells him, he goes, hey, forgive Vesper, forgive yourself. They have that heart to heart. And he's just like, it's like, what was it like? Oh, my friend, fuck you for saying that. I'm throwing you in the trash. Emotions.
I just, it would have been better if it's just like he gave that heart to heart talk, died in his arms, and then they like compounded it into a different scene. It felt like they added 20 seconds to this movie just so that you knew for a fact that guy was in the dumpster. Like, just, it wasn't even relevant. You could have just cut it to somewhere else. You didn't need to see what they did to dispose of the body. Like,
yeah, like, you could have just had that, and then he, Jesus.
They really did.
I will say this. This is nice that this movie's short, because Daniel Craig Bond films are fucking long. And they actually said they made it short because of how long Casino Royale was, and the director wanted it to be fast like a bullet, which sometimes the pacing on this, it's very fast paced, but sometimes you kind of need like points to catch your breath. And this, you don't. Sometimes you can't really catch your. They don't give you a lot of time to catch your breath.
Right. There was also a lot of back and forth in this movie too that made pacing weird. That like action, upbeat, action. Look at all this stuff. You get 2.5 seconds of dialogue. Back to the action. We're going again.
Yep.
And it was just like it was instantaneous jumps from multiple different speeds that I feel like didn't do this a whole lot of favors.
Which honestly works when you have action. Like that could actually work in movies like Mad Max Fury Road. The entire movie's a car chase. Like the entire movie,
Right.
and that actually works out really well. But you also sometimes have periods where you actually are able to catch your breath, even though
if you establish the fact that like the other things you need from the movie that aren't just action have a chance to actually build themselves. Like they genuinely didn't give a character a first name because that would cause them to slow down, and like it doesn't work.
Yeah. I agree. There's also weird symbolism in this movie. Like when Bond's chasing the dude that helps Mr. White escape, they cut between like Bond chasing him and then also horses racing for like, as a symbolism between like, oh, it's like a race or something like that. And then also they cut to like a fight scene or something. It's the stage play or something.
It was overt. They were like, hey, there's symbolism, but then they didn't make it clear what the symbolism was always supposed to be.
It seems very pretentious, like ooh, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? Ask me. And it's like, although I think with the play, it's like, well, you have to look up what the play is to kind of get the symbolism, which to me, I think is kind of sucks if you have to do that. Not that you have to spell it out to the audience like, Moonraker did with the pentagons.
If you're going to going to make it where like, hey, the symbolism's important because we keep jumping back and forth from play to action to play to action, right? Like they clearly want you to know, and then they don't explain it, or it's not something that's like commonly known. It felt really shitty.
Yeah, it's just weird choices like that, and the editing is my main gripes with this, and also like what they did with Mathis, and also Strawberry Fields not having like a really, in-depth character, like not enough character development.
The last thing I've got too is that like the big thing I know I mentioned that it was Mission Impossible with the way that the action was filmed, but also this felt more like a sequel to a Mission Impossible movie rather than a Bond movie, in that like, hey, disavowed by his government, gonna save the day anyway. Like it just it was every single Mission Impossible plot. I get that they like tried to catch up and keep up with other modern movies and take other things into account.
It's almost like License to Kill, how that was more of like a Lethal Weapon type of movie.
Yeah, it just like if you were to show me the descriptions of this movie, like or of the Bond movies, like you cut and draw your some of the whole as the plot line, right? And then do the same with the Mission Impossible movies. Like I would like without having any other background whatsoever, I would have told you this was Mission Impossible.
Right.
It was not discreet.
Yeah, I would say this isn't like as egregious as License to Kill for being like Bond, and this isn't like me shitting on License to Kill. We both actually like that movie. It's just, it just didn't feel like a Bond movie. And with this, it still does in a lot of points, but there's a lot of points where it's just like, it could be like any other action spy movie, especially like Mission Impossible or like the Bourne series.
Yeah, hard for me to disagree. But that just about does it for my list.
Yeah, same here. I guess we'll go to rankings, and this is gonna be tough.
I have a general area if you're more ready. But I can shove it in if you need the time.
I think I'm gonna put it between Octopussy and Thunderball for me, so I'm putting it at number 8.
Okay.
Just because I generally think that, I mean, it's definitely not better than Casino Royale.
No.
I also don't think it's better than On Her Majesty's Secret Service and From Russia with Love, because there's a lot more character development um and there's more thought put into those movies. Same with, I feel, with like Tomorrow Never Dies, GoldenEye. Despite the AK rocket launcher, uh, which was a thought out choice, a dumb choice, but it was thought out. I think like they actually put thought into Living Daylights. I think they put more thought into Octopussy. Uh, I kind of equate this a little bit. I kind of enjoy it, kind of like how like with Thunderball, but I think this one's a little bit. This one's better than Thunderball for the sheer fact that we don't have like a fucking hour-long sea fight under the water.
For shits and giggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put this at 7th, right between On Her Majesty's Secret Service and Tomorrow Never Dies. I guess my big thing is that I think this could have been better if there wasn't a lot of lazy writing. Like, this felt like a really good telling of a really boring plot, which I have to give it a lot of credit for. But
Yeah.
it, I don't know, it just doesn't live up to the other ones that felt thought out and developed and well executed. Like this just falls a little flat of those. The gripes I had with Tomorrow Never Dies, that like they made dumb choices or did stupid things and detracted from their own movie, kind of feel similar to this one.
Yeah.
But this one being different, I'll give a little benefit of the doubt simply because there was a writer's strike, and I'm not sure what I can attribute to who.
Right. And that's honestly why I have it as high as it is too, as well, because like there was no writer's strike with Thunderball. Why the fuck is there that long ass fucking sea fighting battle?
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, I agree. Like like you can't really hate on this film too much, especially how chaotic it was. But then again, like look at how chaotic From Russia with Love was, and it's still your number one.
That's true.
Which comes to the next film that we're going to be watching, Skyfall.
You've been determined that was going to dethrone this, like from the moment we watched From Russia with Love. So,
and here's the thing: if it doesn't, I'm not going to be mad. You know why? A lot of lists actually have, from like Bond aficionados, say From Russia with Love is the best James Bond film. As a matter of fact, Sean Connery, Timothy Dalton, and Daniel Craig all said that's their favorite James Bond movie. So,
interesting.
We'll see.
Interesting.
But when we get into, but I'll tell you this much: after we watch the movie, I'll tell you why I actually think you'll really like it. Not because it's also, it's a good movie, but there's let's just say there's a certain directorial style on it that I think is all right.
Okay. All right. I think you've got one more note before we wrap up.
That is, we, after we're done with the Bond things, we're still taking ideas what to do next. It's gonna be a little bit, probably like next year, like.
Okay, that wasn't the note I was thinking of, but that's all right.
What? Oh, shit! Yeah, damn it. I thought I was gonna do this at the beginning, yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, this week, well, last week, we have a passing of Monty Norman, the writer of the James Bond theme and also the composer for the music of Dr. No. We figured that we should probably mention that. He also did like a few musicals, but he's really noted for like the James Bond theme, and it is a fucking iconic theme. Like, I don't know I have a feeling that anybody that hasn't even seen a James Bond film, if they heard the Bond theme, they'll know it's the James Bond theme.
Yeah, that's probably true. But yeah, I figured while we're doing the podcast, good time as any to note it, and you know.
Yeah. So thoughts and prayers for his family. And thanks to him that we actually have something that's a cool piece of music, and at the same time, like as iconic as it is, that to this day is still culturally relevant. I don't know any other like movie themes that like in a movie series that really still have that relevance.
Not original pieces anyway, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a decent way to end us up, is just to tie a bow on that one. So as always, thank you guys for checking this one out. Only 3 more to go, I think.
Yeah, we got Skyfall, Spectre, and No Time to Die.
So we'll get to those in the next 3 weeks or so. I'm not sure. I think this one gets posted in 3 weeks, so I think it'll post after we've watched the last one.
Yeah.
So can't join us. Haha, stick it. Just kidding. But otherwise, if you guys, like Stallman said, if you guys want to check out any other movies or franchises that you want us to check out, to continue these podcasts, leave a comment, let us know, whatever. I think we're having fun with this, and just want something else to do that. Maybe it won't live up to 28 movies of the Bond franchise, but at least something to watch would be cool if there's something else you guys want to see. Otherwise, check us both out on Twitch, Stallman at Traductus and myself at Ted Green Eagles. Check us out on the Discord, community events, watch parties, all that kind of fun stuff if you want to hang out. Otherwise, I think that'll wrap us up.
Yep. All right. So see you guys later.
Have a good one.